and stuff. I guess we can. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Discussing Tabletop. I hope all of you out there are having a wonderful Saturday and are ready to talk about some interesting tabletop topics, honestly. Joining me is Momo today.
Hello.
So, honestly, I've thrown the docket into the chat already as we're starting out here. It's down below if you're joining us on YouTube, but, you know, I'm glad your stuff with Nom's lightning. I'm eating some Nom, so ignore that fact that I'm going to be eating in the middle of this, because I had to before the show started, because I was cooking a bunch of dinner. Anyway, I guess we can dive into the actual, topics first, to begin with.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, and I actually like it, honestly. So, Wizards of the Coast on D&D Beyond, which I don't know if it's people that were D&D Beyond that became Wizards because they're owned by that now, or actual Wizards people, have put something out that is actually interesting. A horticulturalist guides to plantings in D&D.
Neat.
I know. It's got, I'll link it here. And I'm like, God damn it, that's super interesting in a topic, and my disappointment in your entire existence is, distracted, certainly. I mean, I can't blame everybody over there. There are people that are still...
This is just what I've been doing for 5 years.
Huh.
Weird how I had to make my own crafting rules. Give us it.
Yeah, it's this is stuff that people have needed for years and stuff, and I'm like, yeah,
We've made our own at this point.
I don't know. Are we looking to grab people back?
Maybe just some hard rules would be nice. So this is good at least.
Yeah, it's neat. Honestly, other than, strictly using it for D&D, just the idea of, having a nice, plant chart is kind of cool. Something like that.
Oh, shit. They're actually, giving herbalism kit a use now.
Yeah.
To identify plants. Whereas previously, you just made potions with it for half cost.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's actually a reason to take a herbalism kit now.
But weren't there, only healing potions, pretty much?
Yeah, you could make any potions of healing, and you could make them at half price.
But that's the problem. Is sort of the potions were also there weren't really a lot that you could be I can.
No, you can't really. You don't want to make potions in 5 because they're a magic item.
Yeah.
No, you can.
Look, I'm happy if. I think I'm going to go off topic for a minute here, but it's related to D&D, and this is a good excuse for it. I would be happy if we get back to not trusting them, but at least to, a neutral position, where you're we don't have to, suspect them constantly. And they are making efforts towards it, since it sounds like there was a lot of people, aka Hasbro, that was really pissed off.
Yeah, I have heard things about... Well, I watched an interview, which the interview was more of a PR thing, but
yeah,
it was a Wizards in-house interview,
mm-hmm.
so no hard question asked. But it does seem like Chris Perkins and the other rule designers do actually care, and they're very much trying to actually make functional books these days.
Well, the thing is, if
unfortunately, not being made easy by Hasbro.
Well, again, I'm going to put it out there. The switch to it being still 5e, that's a marketing thing. That's not a rules person thing.
Well, it's kind of marketing, and also it's just a rules update. That's all it is. It's just a it's not even a full comprehensive rules update. It's just it'll be a 5.25, so there's no real hubbub about it.
Well, let's just call it second edition or 5e second run. I don't know, revised.
It's just still 5th edition, but here's a new core rulebook printing and a new DMG printing. That's basically it.
The other thing is, I talked about it because I finally saw. I haven't finished it. I've seen through 50% of it. I think I talked about it with the D&D Summit.
Mm-hmm.
Nerd Immersion finally put out his stuff, so I was looking through it, and I just didn't finish enough time with, sitting down and actually trying to listen to it. But it's sort of interesting to hear that, like, people were really awful about someone whose job is to report on these things going to one of these things.
Yeah.
And that reflects on, like, I thought about it, and it's like, if I would have gotten an invite, as much as I am, like, very anti, like, kind of, like, wizards kind of suspecting, I probably would have gone at least to see what's going on and report it, We can have our integrity and still be, like, lured into the snake's den with a, a trip.
I mean, it's just reporting the news.
Yeah.
Right?
They just happen to be paying for a bunch of reporters to show up there.
Yeah. Which isn't uncommon for press release things.
Yeah. But, anyway, that's my side thing on this. Take what you will. Again, I still say 5th edition is a pretty good system, regardless of what, you feel like for Wizards, you can still play. And this might be helpful. It's just free online and something to check out and get these ideas and stuff.
This will probably be put into the new DMG, I imagine.
That'd be nice.
It seems like they are doing quite a few bigger crafting updates and stuff, from what I've heard. Which again is a 30-minute interview with Chris Perkins.
Yeah. So if you want to see that and learn about it, it is an interview that they have
up. I can link the interview.
That'd be probably good.
We find it.
At least gives you an idea what they're working with the DMG.
There's the interview. Here's his 30-minute interview. Chris Perkins. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. It makes it actually seem like the DMG would be a real book.
Yeah, they actually did stress that they are trying to lay it out a lot better, and they are apparently going to add the actual guidelines for running the game, which the current DMG doesn't actually have.
So,
It is the biggest criticism of it.
Yeah. So, hey, how about a Kickstarter project? Let's talk about one that's, they described it as family pirate fun.
Alright.
I guess that's the way I saw it described. So it's To Glory. It's a going after buried treasure, naval battles, battling possibly a kraken, kind of things like that. It's a dexterity pick up and deliver game for 2 to 4 players. So I mean, honestly, Buccaneers of Shackle Sea is really the reason why I kind of want to talk about it.
It's a board game, also Canadian.
We've been doing a pirate game. Oh, look, it's a family-friendly and neat pirate game. And honestly, family-friendly just means it's, like, easy and fun and, anybody can play it. And I'm not against that. So check it out if you're interested in it. It is funded, and it's like... I'm kind of neutral about dexterity games, but I know there's people that like them a lot, so... That's another thing to shout that out for. But going down in a different path that I don't have a great segue for, but I will kind of add it in here, is we have a TTRPG to speak about that is up on Kickstarter here. Tales of the Myriad. It's a fantasy tabletop game that has a focus both on exploration and also your character's outfits, apparently.
It's a furry.
It's
a pot man with snake.
Yeah. It's apparently very fashiony. Fashion D&D, if that's your thing, I guess.
No, that's a big part of RPGs. The video game is how you look.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, a lot of people do stuff like that with a lot of RPG video games.
Look, man, I have spent 3 real-world hours making an outfit in Final Fantasy XIV before.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta look nice when you're saving the world. Can't look like a peasant.
You're the hero that saves the world. You have to have the ultimate drip.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So clothes matter in this one. 2d6 system. They mention the stats. They go over some basic rules of how it's played, some classes and stuff. And fashion's a big important part of the entire thing. They probably have, like, rules set for how that all works, I'm assuming.
Probably. I mean, there's a demo.
Yes.
It's a weird thing to call a playtest. But you know what? Fair enough, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
What kind of dice system are you? I mean, these DCs are kind of low, so I'm assuming it's probably a 2d10 or something. It's a d6, actually.
yeah, 2d6, I think they said the system.
2d6 system. It's got combat. It's got crit range, statuses. It's got all the things you would need and want. In a
Yeah.
RPG, you know, it's got an attitude scale.
Ooh, attitude scale. I feel like I should do something related to attitude, but I just don't have it in my spirit right now.
Look, if you had to ever work with attitude of NPCs, it would be negative constantly to sell us parties.
Yeah. I'll give some attitude. I'll do the finger snaps. There we go. But yeah, no, if you want, it's a 106-page demo that's got play, character creation, jobs, magic, all this kind of stuff. Check it out if you're interested. It's combining a little bit of fantasy and fashion, and that might be your thing. Plenty of people. Again, what is it? Fashion souls tends to be a thing, you know, that a lot of people do.
Gotta look nice.
Mm-hmm. That'd look nice when you're fighting to the death against horrible blob monsters from beyond the stars. Alright. A cool item that I would have used probably a decade ago. Now, not as much anymore, but I still think it's a cool item because I play online. A deluxe RPG monster stat tracker case and gaming accessory. It's a tracking system thing for fighting monsters and stuff. Honestly, it's like a super clipboard with like little twisty knobs that you can note stuff on, and it's just really kind of cool. And like as I said, I probably would have loved this back when I was doing in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays, but still, like, if there's plenty of people that do in-person things, so I can kind of say, like, maybe this will be an interesting cool. It's like people get their gaming tables. This is kind of along the same lines. They got a breakdown of everything it has in it. It's got like a little notebook, the dials. It uses magnets to hold things together. It's got like a little storage lining area for dice that you can throw in there. Yep. So it is $89, but again, just like the gaming tables, I do not fault anybody that buys one of those. You have to be able to afford it.
I mean, it's for $89. Honestly, it's tracker and a dice box put together.
Yeah.
So this has uses for people who play in person quite a lot.
Yeah. And it looks to be pretty good damn quality, which is another good thing about it. So, again, if you're interested, it's one of those cool things for in-person people, and I kind of wanted to shout it out when I saw it neat, because there was a time I was more in-person. Nowadays, not so much, but, you know, if I ever had an excuse to play an in-person game, I would do it again. I don't think I can afford one of these things right now, but if I could, I probably would for those rare in-person games. I could pull out my kick-ass, you know, monster tracker thing and be like, hell, get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
So, Alchemy, the VTT platform, an Alchemy RPG, which is their new way of doing things that's working along with Paizo, Free League, Modifius, Chaosm, is got a opening page for its Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter hasn't started yet, but it's got a page for it. But this is sort of like the, I guess, the evolution of Alchemy from what I've read up on it. Because technically, this is an early access, and there's a homepage for Alchemy RPG too, which I will put.
Fair.
And also there's the homepage for the thing. So it has been in early access. It's going up to Kickstarter now. is this just like an upgrade to Alchemy, or is this like a new version of Alchemy? And I'm interested to, because like I haven't heard a lot. I don't know necessarily a huge amount from Alchemy.
I don't even know what Alchemy is.
I knew it was a VTT. Alchemy VTT. Oh, this might be this Alchemy VTT, a virtual tabletop. I've heard this name before. Okay, that's why I heard about it last year at some point in time. Someone talked about Alchemy. I'm sure of it at some point. They mentioned it. Because I'm just curious, like, and that's why, like, my brain is finally clicking together about everything. So I guess I didn't realize this has been on, like, a early access playtest, I guess, and now they're doing a full release with Steam? Well, they say they're going to be on Steam, too. Or Stream. I'm misreading words so much. Oh my god, today. Oh, Stream. They're going to have set up for Stream stuff, too, on it. Awesome. They say without initial need for software overlays. It's built in to have built-in streaming stuff to it, which is an interesting idea, too.
Fair.
I
mean, more VTTs are good.
Yeah. I mean, like, something that's a little fancier seems neat, I guess. Yeah. So, it is going to be going up on Kickstarter soon. The top page is up. You can check it out. It's something to keep an eye out. If you were in the playtest of it, or if you're looking to maybe try a different VTT, there's plenty of nice ones out. Maybe this is the one that would interest you more than anything. I as much as I do love me a Roll20, it's only because it's easy. It doesn't mean it's not best. So I certainly can understand an argument for a different one. Anyway. God, sometimes my brain. Hey, Chaosium does something other than Call of Cthulhu. Which, honestly, I should expect. But part of me was also like, oh, they do something other than Call of Cthulhu. It's Rivers of London. So it's like magic cops or detectives. Yeah. Where I read about it a minute ago, and it's not on this page that it did. Here we go. You take the plays, your new recruited members of the London Metropolitan Police Service Special Magic Branch, known as the Folly. Solve mysteries, catch criminals, interact with those who've been changed by magic, the demi-monde, they call them. It's a core rulebook with all the rules you need, character creation, advancement, advice for GMs, some history and information. They've got what they call Newtonian magic system. Which is apparently defined... I guess, is Rivers of London based on something?
It might be. I'm not entirely sure.
A novel series. Okay. Because this the wording in what I was reading up on originally was fully defining feature of the series, and I'm like, series. So again, it's based on a book series.
Sure.
And if you are interested in it, it is now out in hardback, and I'm guessing you could probably get a PDF too from Chaosium if you really wanted to. Because Chaosium's like that often. Yes, you can. There you go. I do it. But if you wanted a hardback of it, you could. Moving right along is something that I will probably be disappointed in, but I like seeing it exists. Mm-hmm. Renegade Studios is doing Werewolf the Apocalypse, finally.
I mean, fair.
Look, it is the second most popular of the World of Darkness series, honestly. Like, you know, I gotta say, poor Mage out of the original Trifecta is the, like, one that's the least, but I'm pretty sure some of the other, like, weird expansions even are more popular than Mage, because Mage could just be confusing sometimes. But regardless...
I know a single person who plays Hunter.
I have looked at Hunter before, and I liked the Hunter video games that were originally out on GameCube and that era. Those were really fun and got me into knowing more about Hunter, because I remember there was a possibility for me to be in a Hunter game, but I just didn't have the time to do it at the time. And just talking many, many, many years ago. I think it was a little outside of high school.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's a new edition of Hunter coming out as well, under Renegade as well. So it'll be interesting to see these. I know ETM isn't particularly great state right now, but Werewolf and Hunter have gotten far less attention.
Yeah.
Far less material. So there's less to mess up.
There's still, like, I feel like... here's the thing is, some of the stuff they implemented in Vampire is kind of stuff that exists in Werewolf anyway. Werewolf, you are a combat machine, but always have to worry about frenzying, especially when you take a bunch of damage and stuff. Not when you use your powers, because that's just stupid, but, getting into combat, taking a bunch of damage, you sometimes have to worry about losing control, like raging, It's the werewolf thing, it's something built into their characters that was built in, I don't know, well and not shoehorned into people's faces. It's almost as if, years and years ago, they were like, we don't want this to be an asshole mechanic, so we do it in a very good way. And I feel like Renegade may take that and be like, we want this to be more assholey like Vampire. So I'm worried about that. That they're going to fuck up the systems, and, I mean, the setting is... I don't know what they can do with it. Can they pull a third Inquisition or whatever it's called for Werewolf? Sure. Would that really suck? Oh yeah. Hunter has nothing to it. Hunter is just a bunch of dudes in a van that are going around fighting monsters. Gotta be honest, that's it. It's not a terrible idea. It's just no one ever really did anything for it. I'm less disappointed in anything for that. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like to see what they do with it, but I'm also like not expecting a lot from Renegade after what they've done so far. I think is the way. I just haven't liked some of the stuff they've done great. I just don't like the direction they take sometimes. I feel like it's like my 2 cents on this one. They don't like. As supposed to be like a new generation of the same thing, they don't respect the original material at all. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes the original material can be good. But popular stuff that's been part of the old material, I mean, like, that stuff they ignore sometimes too. Which is the sucky part. If you get rid of the shitty parts, people don't care. Just saying. It's similar to the weird changings of stuff in, like, other editions and stuff. Anyway, I can complain all day. God. We might have talked about it, but it's up for pre-release now. I don't remember if we talked about it. We might have. I just wanted to shout it out again, because regardless, because Free League sent me a nice email about its existence too.
Emails.
I know, I get emails from Free League and Modifius, so they actually tell me when stuff happens.
That's fair.
And I'm actually checking my emails more often now.
You can check those as a business owner,
Yeah, I can actually check those and figure out what's going on. But yes, Dragonbane. It's a Swedish RPG.
Yes, it is an old Swedish RPG.
But it's getting an English version and a upgrade, and they are putting it out. The pre-orders are up, so they should be coming out soon. And yeah.
To tell you what Dragonbane is really, it's done a lot in conjunction with LARPing in sort of the Scandinavia Nordic region. It's not particularly popular outside of that region. But this might make it more popular.
Yeah.
It's a total immersion RPG.
I'm curious how they've adapted it for more modern then.
Yeah, because it's from 2006.
Yeah. And we've seen how things age like somewhat poorly from like even the early 2010s.
Yeah.
So, I have one other main topic then to talk about, and it's something that Modifius is, I believe, publishing rather than creating. You know, one of those kind of things. And it's FabulaUltima, a tabletop. They call it a tabletop JRPG. And I'm gonna admit, I am a fan of JRPGs. Plenty of classic ones.
Fair.
Haven't played a lot of modern stuff, but again, everything evolves in a different way. But like, you know, you give me a classic Final Fantasy and that kind of style of RPG, you know, I like those. I never look down on them, but there's I'm not getting into discussions on the monikers anyway. But so it's taking a lot of inspiration from that kind of thing and trying to put together a RPG system. So I'm curious as to how you capture some of the essences of what you get and expect from like kind of like a classic style. That's classic style of RPGs, and they do talk about a little bit about it, but I don't get a lot of what the game system actually is, just in the blurb that they give out. And honestly, it's like I'm sorry. No, I think the way I want to say this, I'm trying to think of the ways to say this. Certainly, the art has a very, in kind of a little bit of like that anime styled, but it's not meant to be anime styled. A lot of RPGs, especially Japanese produced ones, tend to use that style too for a lot of their art. So, looks generally something a little interesting. I certainly would like if they came out like a quick start or something that I could actually take a look at the system. I don't know if they will, because they're, you know, I think it's one of their published ones. Oh no, they.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't. Hold on.
they have a press start. It looks like.
Yeah, which is like $7.
Oh, they've got a 0-1 for a PDF version of the press start. Okay.
Okay, I mean, it's fair.
Okay. Cool. Good on them. So if you want to check it out, go ahead. It certainly is. Looks a little interesting. Looks a little different. And I am definitely interested how they are capturing everything with that. So, check it out. Deeper discussion topic. I guess I should choose one of those. I was thinking of a few on here. Excuse me. Okay, here's one that I do want to talk about because it comes up sometimes, and it was something I was thinking about more with, especially the season finale of Buccaneers, which is too many and too few players. Because it was one of those things is while we were doing Buccaneers there, especially towards the end, and especially because we're getting into higher level Pathfinder, the difference between that 4-player, which is what a lot of adventures that are pre-made are balanced for, versus 5 players, I feel like I've been feeling it more now. And I haven't been paying attention to it as much. Which again, that's on me for not paying attention to that. But that is a dynamic that you have to think about, that you have, this is a point in time where the number of players matters. But it can matter on the other ends, where, the Arcanist is a half player, to be fair. Yes and no. He does weird things, but then he does very useful things, and I never know what it's going to be. And I think he's too much of a wild card to judge him as a half character. He's just chaos. Not bad chaos.
I mean, he's a support caster. He's doing a support caster. That's it, right?
Yeah.
He's effectively a support wizard, which is a pretty strong way to play wizard.
Yeah. It's not bad. But it made me... go ahead.
Doing the job of being a transmuter, which is buff.
But all this made me definitely think about that you have to be careful with player numbers. Like, honestly, you can get too many players, you can also get too few players. And it's like, I think it comes down to a combination of two things. Again, balance is one of those things. Yeah. And yeah, I think Worm just hit on both of them. And the number of characters for GM preference. It's like, what can I handle when it comes to players is usually what you're asking for the upper end, more than anything. Though balance, again, comes up for that. And on for the lower end, you're thinking more at that point in time, truly balance for the game. Because I think all of us, that even when I'm just making something up on my own, I kind of almost hit that, what's your average party level? That's a difficulty I could use for stuff. And I don't think about, like, oh, it's 3 players. They're not going to be as strong as 4 players or something like that. The challenges that oftentimes come about, you have to take a second thought on it, and sometimes you actually have to work on it more when you have too few characters. 2 players, as much as it sounds like it'd be really easy just to deal with 2 people, you also come up with that problem balancing, and lack of players can also come up with problems of team dynamic, which again, that makes the form of what can my team of players do. You know, if I have a wizard and a fighter, they're not going to be healing a lot. You know, they're not going to be doing a lot of stuff. They're not going to be doing roguey stuff. Mm-hmm. But also, like, 2 people interacting are going to be very soundboardy, I guess. You know, what's the way I want to kind of describe this? I feel like when you have more people, and maybe you have that 4 people, the player interactions cause an evolution that's better for the role-playing side of gameplay, I think. It can reach a limit, but there is like that number of people that works better for building stuff and interactions, I think. Did I express that well?
Yeah, you expressed that fine, I think.
Yeah. So, there are limits, you know. If I have 7 people, there are people that kind of disappear behind the, you know, things.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to work with then.
When we first started Buccaneers, 2 years ago, nearly at this point, by the way, we had 6 players.
Mm-hmm.
4 of those players, very talkative people, very lovely people, took up all of the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting and I never got to say a word for a lot of sessions because they were just louder voices. I tend to run with 4. My max is 5. I think 3 is too few because if someone has to miss, you have to cancel the game.
Yeah.
So I think 4 or 5 is the sweet spot for me personally. So I think as a DM. But I've certainly run a game with 3 people, and it worked out okay. I've run a game with 6 people, and it worked out fine. It's just you just have to think a little harder.
Yeah. There's a lot of balancing factors that you as a person that's running the game have to do, and more things you have to juggle when you are not at like a sweet spot of players. I think it's like there are those comfort zones where there's not a lot of flex, but certainly you can hit those points in time where it starts being a lot more work with you. And you did bring up something important that, like, yeah, if you have too few players, you can't run it. Like,
yeah,
if I designed a game for 2 players, I could. Worm brought up a great point that, like, I could come up with a lot of NPCs that would be interacting with them, you know, some kind of thing that it would be a story specifically for 2 players. As soon as it's a story not for 2 players, you have to start adapting the story to that, which is extra work. You have to have more things to, like, conversate off of people with more, like, ideas and stuff, and maybe give them an NPC to help them out that you have to run then as an extra thing or something like that. The 3 players, sure, you're a little better, sure, you might have some deficiencies, you don't have as many, And yeah, if you're missing someone, you honestly at that point in time you might not have to play, and that's why I feel like for a 3-player game, I probably wouldn't do a long-term campaign. Honestly, there's a reason why these games are technically designed more around 4 with a kind of like small /5. You know, when I talk Pathfinder First Edition and like something like Buccaneers, it's really designed around 4. They say like 5 will do okay, but they're probably going to be like, it's going to be like a little bit more easy mode. And that's kind of why, like, we were talking about Jacob. Jacob is a wild factor, where I don't know if Jacob's going to do something completely useless, and then it's just going to be four people, and it's a standard difficulty, or he's going to pull something supportly out of his ass that turns the tide in such a way that I'm like, well, this makes it just easy. I don't know. Wild card. I think, like, wild cards happen, you know. That's not something to like put there, but like, I think you brought it up very well that getting to those high number of players, you just, and I think we talked about it there, like, silence can happen. You could be outshined. Because
Lightning and I, just for model decisions, never really did anything. Never really. No one really interacted with us either. That's a different problem. That's a different issue entirely. It did kind of suck for the first like 10 sessions of why am I here kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
If you have too many players, that can become an issue.
Well, you were saying that was for Buccaneers. Buccaneers only had 5 to begin with. It was just...
Was it 5? I thought it was 6.
No, because Joe didn't come until later and replaced people.
Right. Well, it's still an issue because there were just 3 loud
those
bullies.
3... Umber, Eric, and Cell were just in the face constantly.
Might have been thinking of Carrying Crown then, where we had the billion players at the start.
Carrying Crown, I think, was 6, but Carrying Crown had a billion issues in and of itself.
Carrying Crown did have a lot of problems, but if you have too many players, sometimes your other players will get talked over a lot, which is just an issue in itself. Yeah,
and that's something that's very difficult to manage because that comes down to people's personalities, and it's not just people's personalities too. Sometimes it's the character's personality. You don't know how that character is going to be until they have it. Like, I've certainly played very quiet characters. I've also played very boisterous characters. So I feel like I can go either way, unfortunately. That's not great for a GM who's trying to judge how it is with me as an extra player on there, or a player. I apologize to anyone who's out there. You know, you never know how it's going to end up because it's just each character is different. But certainly there are people that are always a little bit more boisterous and stuff too. I played with plenty of people that, you know, whatever character they have are going to be more forefront. But it's a little bit of understanding that, and then also, like, you have to, again, put the extra effort in to set up situations, almost, where the interactions can happen. And I do regret, at the beginning of Buccaneers, I didn't do that as much, because I was, for one, trying to get through the worst parts of the first book quickly. And also, like, I think I was still a little bit of that Pathfinder rust, because I didn't really get it off with Carrying Crown. I just kind of suffered brain farts. I'm like, what am I doing? What are we doing? Huh? How's this breaking? Crap. What can I do to fix this? Those words weren't always working.
Fair.
Carrying Crown was... we talked about it as a mess.
Was fine.
Even if the adventure ended up being fine, I think it's still a mess. Honestly.
Yeah. It had problems on the player's side more than anything.
That came down to I could have also done some stuff to help.
Yeah, I mean, back to the topic. I mean, I tend to just be a very quiet player overall, so I'm fine with more people taking up the spotlight than me.
I think it's still like you don't want to be overshadowed or ignored, and that can be difficult to manage too, especially if your character or you are quiet. Like, I never feel overshadowed in Worm's game, I will tell you. Because I specifically made a quieter character. When I have an opportunity, I do my thing. I speak up. I put in my 2 cents. I do my stuff as my character. But it's a quieter character. And so, I understand that I'm not going to be loud, boisterous out there, you know? And other people are going to be forefront. But that's specifically because I built that way. I did that in a way because then, like, you know, I had reasons behind it. But my thought pattern is, like, there's another thing, too, is sometimes as a player, you should do things to help your GM, you know? Watch and talk about people and their characters. That's why a session 0 can be very helpful, or at least a session 0.5, where people get a hold of their characters. So you know if you might have to adjust your character to be maybe a little less boisterous in the front.
Yeah.
You know, you have a certain way you play, or your characters play. You can kind of turn that back, maybe. Help your GM out, especially if they do have 5 or 6.
People are just chatterboxes.
That's true. It's very true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have issues balancing for more than 5 people, just because I have a lot of experience building custom monsters and building out custom encounters very quickly.
Yeah.
But I can understand, especially if you're a new DM, you don't want to have too many people, just because it can get a little harder to crunch the numbers.
Yeah. I would definitely say if you're on the DM, if you're running a game and you're on the newer side, go with kind of what the standard they say. Games will usually give you an idea how many players is recommended for them.
For 5e, it's 3 to 5 is the typical what you want in a 5th edition game.
Yeah, and I think Pathfinder 1e and 2e are kind of around the same area. They're kind of like the 4 to 5 more.
Yeah.
You could do 3, but it's a little less recommended. And yeah, that's another thing a Worm brought up there, that sometimes is the question, is the character bolsterous or the player? And if it's a bolsterous person you're bringing in because you like them and stuff, also, like, you know, that's something that you can, like, be like, hey, you know, try not to get too energetic or something, or, like, you know, I know you get very excited about this, you know, you can talk to them about it, but, you know, like, you know, I like you here, you're a good friend, but, you know, please sometimes let other people speak. You sometimes do that. You could be very nice about it and talk to someone, especially if they're a very bolsterous person. They probably know they're a bolsterous person. Most people that are do, you know? And you could be like, hey, just careful about it, you know, make sure, try to tone it down a bit. You're giving them something that, because they want to play, they want to have fun, you're not telling them, don't be bolsterous, which is very kind of just not saying, you're just saying, like, you know, try a little bit. Which most reasonable players, if you got a reasonable player, and you know them and you're asking them, are going to be like, yeah, sure, I can put in a little bit of effort to help you. And that kind of can try to solve one of the issues that comes up with, you know, when you get a lot of players, you start getting people more bolsterous, more talkative than other. That balancing of giving everybody a reasonable amount of time. I'm not saying equal time, because again, if I'm a quieter person, or I'm playing a quieter character, I don't need equal time. Especially if I'm playing the character, I don't expect it. I feel like I want to have time, but I don't expect to be, like, forefront all the time or something, you know, or equal amount to the talky person in the group.
Like, Misty is a more quiet background character. She's there to guide these idiots along their path. And they seem to be doing a fine job, so they don't need her as much as more. So she's kind of taking a little bit of a step back. And I don't really say anything unless it's obvious I should interact here, or if someone asks me something, right? And that's fine, because Cell and Eric take up enough airspace with talking anyways.
Sometimes I just would wish that Cell's character would learn.
No. Those characters are mildly a meme.
It's unfortunate it's kind of become that way. It's just a mild bit of a meme. So it's...
Those characters, I mean, I'm not going to say this to be rude, but Cell's character is very one note. I'm the best sailor in existence. That's the character. End of story. Very cocky person. There's not a lot to the character, which is fine, but it does get a little old after a while. It gets a little old after basically 2 years.
Yes, I think that's the thing too. Is like,
if I look at Yakul started off. I mean, he's still stupid, but he's become a person.
Yes.
After the first book or two, Eric took a step back, realized, okay, I need to do something else, progress the character a bit. Then we had character progression with Yakul. I don't know how that was earlier, but again, it's just how Cell plays.
There's been mild things, but it's unfortunate that Cell's kept very straight and narrow on that, and
different play styles, you know.
It just has, unfortunately, I feel like for me, like as a person running it, I'm like, this doesn't help me run stuff. Please,
no, characters are kind of meant to grow.
Yeah, please grow the character a little bit. I think that was what I was talking about. If you saw the end of the session, where I'm like, you know, please, you
can't invade Chelix.
Don't have attitude like you can. Or that, like, you know, don't taunt the person who's in charge of an entire military, you know, branch. That you're like, we can take you. I'm like, no. You can get maybe an army to maybe deal with it. A united front of, like, a good percentage of all the pirates in the shackles, because they're probably a little cocky and not sending everything in there because they think you're ragtag enough, you know, throw them their expectations out of the water. But that's not you being able to beat them directly. That's you taking advantage of their cockiness. If you want to be cocky, they'll take advantage of it and win.
Correct.
Yes, and, you know, the being Inquisition best sailor ever has definitely helped a lot. But I'm sorry, you're not the best sailor ever. You've got magical help, and, like, someone could do the same thing as you, honestly. I could just have someone have the build as you. But anyway, that's a complaint about Buccaneers and stuff, which we can talk about Buccaneers in a minute.
We can.
But, yeah. I think, like, I try to remain around, especially nowadays, after a lot of what happened with things like Records, Children of Wrath, and Legacies of Kain. All of them needed a certain amount of players almost to function, unfortunately. And all of them suffered from 3-playerisms at certain points in time, which really hurt the games, because as a stream game, it's kind of hard to play with 3 players, especially because you want a lot of character development. And it taught me a little bit more about, like, the importance, like, of that character development and times to develop your characters. Certainly, sometimes characters don't develop.
Yeah.
Revi is just one example. I have others of characters that pretty much stayed the same. Cough, cough, Kaz, cough, cough.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, my character didn't really develop, but my character didn't speak for most sessions.
You didn't really need to, though.
Also, my character was a functional person.
I mean, Joe's character was mostly functional. Weird and did terrible ideas occasionally, but sort of functional. Sort of. But yeah, like, all those games suffered from lack of players. You know, because, again, you hit home on it that, like, if you have 3 players and you miss 1,
yeah,
you can't play.
Nope, can't run. Can't run with 2. Just doesn't work.
2 players, as I said, if you build an adventure around it, it can work. Otherwise, you have to go through hoops to get a 2-player game to work. And when you're already, like, writing a game, you have to switch gears completely. Doesn't help. So I tend to go for that, like, 4 or 5 player now. I feel like I feel like 5 players is... I just put it there normally and like to have that because that actually helps if, like, I could run with 2 people down kind of thing. Like, you know. So, you know, the rarity of, like, I'm missing 2 people instead of just 1, I could still possibly run. But that's... I think we've hit on it that, like, those are the safe zones for players. The number of them you're going to run with. Then, once you are familiar enough, then you can do other things. Then if you want to do a 2-player game and have a 2-player game designed, go ahead and do it. Or if you're feeling comfortable enough to try something with, let's say, 6 players, you can do it. I certainly would recommend if you're going something with, like, more extremes, do the first time with people you're all familiar with. I wasn't familiar with everybody when it came to carrying Crown. I hadn't really done anything with our gunslinger at that point in time, ever.
Yeah.
So, it was a new person. You know, that was not a helpful thing. So, if you want to try 6 or anything else, know the people you're working with. And honestly, talk with them about it if you're going to have a high player game and what it means to be. If it's necessary for whatever story you're telling. But again, ask yourself the question, if I'm doing something with low amounts of players or high amounts of players, is it necessary for my story? Because if it's not, I actually recommend not bothering. I mean, if you have 1 billion friends and you want to include them all, and it's like 6 people, so it's a group of 7 of you, that might be understandable. Beyond that, then don't invite everybody. Because God, I would never try 7 or more people. That's just I'm torturing myself at that point in time. I barely would want to try 6 at this point in time. That's a challenge that, you know, would be for shorter term games.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. So, anyway, I think that's enough of that. That was a kind of dive into the fact you can definitely have too many or too few players. Be wary of that. And be ready for the extra work you might have to put in if you do have those. You know. How about our week in tabletop? Do you do anything on Sunday?
Sunday, we did Sunday game. We messed around with dream stuff.
Dream stuff.
We went into each other's dreams. Nothing really of note between my and Lynn's character. Jay's character is apparently from the Feywild. Can only access the Feywild through his dreams, which makes sense in a weird way. Very weird. He's from the Feywild. He's a freak of some kind. Cell's character is a mega cursed weirdo whose warlock patron wants to consume his soul and take over his body. I assume Cell wants to switch patrons now after learning that. I mean, it's cool if he wants his character to just die. I guess, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know...
If you want your character to just die, that's fine. You can just keep going all the way you're going.
The more I hear about Cell's character, the more I'm like...
Man, August is a meme. August is a meme character. 100% just a meme character. Slowly getting better, kind of. My current character, which is a gold dragon, is departing from the party to switch class, basically, and we'll maybe come back at a later date. So in the meantime, I'm going to be playing a cleric, who's going to come in next session. But yeah, my main character is stepping away to switch classes because it's not really a good way to switch classes in game. You kind of have to take that character a step back to go do it and then come back later. It takes a lot of time. How was that game? It was a kind of a chill game. Chill session where we just explored dreams. And all the trauma surrounding our characters.
Yay, trauma! Everybody's
My character
favorite.
is an ex-war veteran who has just has PTSD. Lynn's character was in a car accident, so the party got to experience those. don't think they want to go into those specific dreams anymore.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, trauma and post-traumatic stress. It's sort of, yay, dreams for those. That seems...
Yeah.
How about Monday? Do anything on
I took a nap on Monday.
Our game's on hold until, I think, next week or the week after that. We actually have a date. I'd have to check what date it is.
Nice.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I will probably be... I'm usually ready on most of those days anyway, so it's usually going to be like a ping earlier in the day that I'll be like, hey, we're playing today. Okay, I'm ready. May 1st. Thank you.
Thanks.
So. That is a Monday. God.
That is a Monday, yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking today was Monday for a second in my
is
brain.
not, we wouldn't be doing the show if it was Monday.
I know, but it's sort of like... My brain was thinking that for a second. I'm like, God...
I would be taking a nap right now. It's Monday.
Yeah. How about, did you do anything on Tuesday? You did
We
Tuesday.
did another play test of a harder encounter. We learned quite a bit. Like the fact that crits shouldn't exist on spells in this system. As lightning is making. But it's very important that we did figure that out. Because I think lightning did, like, 60 damage in a single spell.
Ouch!
So, which just outright killed Cell's character. But it was very important that we tested a harder combat so we could know if things like crits should exist or not, if spells do too much damage, weapons do enough damage, how to balance harder encounters, things like that. And it was a very useful playtest for learning that. 2 characters died, and we learned a lot from it. Again, they weren't characters in quotation; they were numbers on sheets. They weren't. It wasn't a game.
Mm-hmm. They're like a pre-made character, which like you don't technically have sometimes.
Yeah, they were playtest characters. Mm-hmm. Pretty much no thought was in it. It's just numbers on sheets, and I think it was a very good testing for that type of encounter, which we learned. Yeah, it needs a little bit of work still, but that's how you learn these things.
Then on Wednesday we had Buccaneers, which was the season finale, which had a very interesting up and downs. I feel like because this one was going to be one which it was like finishing kind of combat stuff. It was going to be combat heavy. Yeah. The Ernest fight was a thing, and honestly...
The only problem with the Ernest fight is it was slow.
Yes, I agree it was slow. You kind of shut down a lot of their stuff by slowing them, so they're like, I guess we'll just cast spells.
That's what transmuters are meant to do.
I know, but it's sort of like, I'm like, they're smart, and they're like, well, we can't do our, like, multiple attacks, which will probably do more damage. I guess...
Did nuke the only good character in the party about 6 times.
I did honestly find that hilarious. It's the little bit of evil deep in my heart when it comes as a demon.
The rest of us were taking, like, 5 damage.
Yeah. It was a guaranteed 5, but it was 5 damage.
You just kept kicking Joe's character.
Honestly, if you'd gone the other way, you might have avoided them, but then they probably would have come to help Harrigan. I talked about that. I probably would have just, like, nerfed him a little bit or something, because I tried to do some stuff to make him a little bit more rebalanced and stuff, because I'm like, there was a lot of situational stuff.
Yeah, man. You made him rebalance just for me to shut him down in one turn.
God, that ability in its interaction was just so, like, what? Because, like, his entire thing is he's got, you know, he makes people either frightened or shaken, and then he takes advantage of that to sneak attack people on his own. Now, in the original information, he also used a third tactic, which would have completely been shut down by you already, which was invisibility.
We just had invisibility purged up.
And, which I'm like, he's learned a few things about you. He knows that you have ways of overcoming invisibility. I'm not going to even bother with that on his agenda. You know, he's smart enough to learn stuff about you, it turns out, because he was.
Yep.
But then it's sort of like, well, what do I do now? Because...
Was he... I do have a question. Was he immune to crits?
No.
He didn't have fortification?
He wasn't immune. He has some fortification, though, yes.
Okay. What do you know offhand? What fortification?
Like 25%.
Because I would assume it wasn't the 75%.
No. It's like
Okay.
it was like I think it's like they're 25, 50, or 100. I think it is.
It's like 25, 50, or 75. Because if you have Fortification 3, you can still be hurt by crits.
Oh, okay. So I think it was the light one.
Okay, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it didn't help that the opening round was 2 crits against him.
Wasn't it 3? It was 4 crits.
So, it might have been 4 crits.
It was 4 crits.
I think I crit twice.
No, you crit once.
I crit once, and I think Joe crit a bunch.
And
right?
then Joe crit a bunch. And the thing is, Joe didn't do quite as much damage because he couldn't do his precision damage.
Yeah.
So it was still 3 crits. So
he got chunked basically immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I did make the accurate prediction that the man would die in 3 rounds, when he did.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing with Pathfinder combat, is it's either very quick or very drawn out. It's not really in between.
It's just an unfortunate thing. It's very hard in first edition Pathfinder to balance out something that's like in the middle. There really isn't.
You can't really do a medium length encounter. It's either going to be over in like 3 turns, or it's going to take like 10 turns.
Which honestly, for a battle like that, I would have preferred longer, but we already
happened.
Day,
when it's a 1v5, it's not much a dude can do. He's just a dude with some items.
I mean, I try to give him some stuff, but like, it wasn't enough. Try to give him some boosts to stuff. It just
when your villain is just a dude, you can only do so much.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And when he had a round, I think he rolled like not above a 5 for any of his attacks the second round.
For opening round, he was staggered, so he couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did shake in our one, but then I removed that immediately.
Yeah.
And then he just got slapped a bunch.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much you can do against that. That's just the dice at that point.
He did some very mean things to Yakul.
He did, like, beat the shit out of Yakul.
Like, if he hits people, it does a very good job. And he's very good at hitting everybody but Cell.
Yeah, well, that's because this is not like you need to get rid of that dress somehow. That dress is too powerful.
I have to look at how he stacks his AC, because like I originally when I designed it in such a way it shouldn't have been too powerful. But
I think he's stacking with things like sacred bonus and stuff,
which it technically would stack. Does he have like? Did I allow him to use bracers of armor?
No. Wait,
okay.
Actually, I don't know. Actually,
he might have braces of armor, and I might have allowed that.
Let me check. I think I have access to the dress sheet.
Because I said no armor, but I didn't originally say anything on bracers of armor.
Because technically the bracer armors work if it's an unarmored item.
Yes, that's why I kind of like it might have
matter much because it would only reduce the AC by 1 or 2 at this level.
Braces of armor could be up to 8 though. That's what I mean.
Let's see. Armor. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about braces of armor, so he might have braces of armor.
I've got to do math on Cell sheet
to
see how
look at his sheet and see
how he does the armor and stuff. Because
this dress is just a little much.
The dress shouldn't be though. That's the problem. Is like shouldn't.
He's done some combination.
Yes, he's done some combination that it's just
likely stumbled upon accidentally.
I'm just gonna have to read up on where he's getting all these bonuses for, because getting up till like mid-30s is just a bitch. Like, okay, mid to high 30s. What was he at, like 40 something? There was against an attack.
He can get up to that with some spells. I know that.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm at a solid 30. Cool's at like around a 28 to 30. I don't know what Chester's at. I know Jacob's only at like 25.
I once got to a 40 build, but it was around level 15. And you know what kind of build I did? A combat expertise / defensive character with the Othiox Guile, which I don't know if that was a 3rd edition feat that we allowed, or if it was a 4th edition, or is a Pathfinder 1st edition feat. Where it's sort of like, I'd have to look it up. Honestly. Guile, Pathfinder. Oh yeah, Othiox Guile is a Pathfinder feat. You add your charisma to basically dodge against one target, basically, when you're fighting defensively. So that was what allowed me to get up to like the 40s was I was fighting defensively, and then using combat expertise, and then using Orthodox Guile with a charisma character.
I will also note, one of the reasons Cell can stack it is because you made it an insight bonus.
Yeah.
You should have made it an armor bonus, in my opinion. But so you have to talk to Cell about it.
Yeah, we got to talk to Cell about it. I got to talk to Cell about it. You know, we, the collective we as the, you know...
The royal us as a group should probably talk about it when we meet on Wednesday. Because
it makes things very difficult because, like, Cell is virtually unkillable a lot of times.
Pretty much. Cell can't beat it.
Because I'm just using standard things, and unless I, like, tweak with things a lot.
It hurts the party because you can't hit Cell, so everything goes into Yakul instead.
Yeah.
Which then ends up downing Eric, reducing his fun level.
Yeah. So, like... there's just so much, like... And I'm sorry, like... Sometimes the buffs are too much, I think, too. Like, my brain can't classify. You had so many buffs, I had no idea what the fuck buffs you guys had on. It was like, you cast, like, 15 spells between all of you, and I'm like...
that's just late game Pathfinder.
I know, but it's sort of like...
There's no way around it.
At least
You're
it's
kind
like...
of expected to do it.
At least it's, like, you know... At least, you know, like... Sometimes it's helpful, you know, but, like, you know... Cell's character's interesting. It's just... It's a build that I just... Sometimes, I guess, I just get frustrated with it more than anything else.
Because War Priest is a very selfish buffer. It throws things off when you're trying to play.
Yeah. And you can throw things on...
Because all Cell's buffs go into himself.
And you just do it as a swift action, too.
Yeah, rather than being spread out amongst the group.
Yeah. So it can do a lot of in-the-round buffs, suddenly. Anyway. But yeah, we finished up, well, at least it's going to be off next week. I think we're going to be off next week, back the week after that, then a week off, then a week and back after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of plan, because Eric was going to have 2 weeks off, and we didn't want to have 4 weeks off.
Moving to the other side of the country.
Yeah, which means, like, if I wanted to go to, you know, PAX East, I could be like, hey, Eric, you want to check that? Or, like, hey, Eric, you want to, like, take a drive down to PAX Unplugged? And he could be like, sure, it's in driving range.
Better coasts, but not really, because neither coast is particularly great.
The U.S. is the U.S. You're from somewhere.
The weather over here more.
Yeah. But anything on Thursday?
I did my game on Thursday. Basically, they went and tracked down an expert on planar gateways because they're going to be using one soon, so they wanted more information. They went to her home. She wasn't there. Her home is seemingly kind of abandoned, but not really. They solved a couple of puzzles, and were able to figure out how to enter her demi-plane when she does her sort of magical testing in. They had a little bit of a conversation with her, and her egotistical, somewhat crazy theories. She is a wizard. And then they're going to continue doing that next week. Because they need to figure out... They want to figure out as much as they can on where this gateway is going to take them, which is the smart plan, to know where you're going to land first. So you can adequately prepare instead of just jumping through a portal.
Neat. Anything on Friday?
No, I didn't do anything on Friday.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would be it then. Yeah, okay, so it's a 6 insight bonus. That's
It's a plus 6 insight bonus.
That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that bonus either needs to be knocked down to like 4, or changed as an armor bonus, so certain things can't stack together.
It was one of those things that I just didn't realize how... I wasn't thinking, I guess, when I kind of put it together.
Or you need to make the downside to using it is kind of nothing.
It has.
There might need to be a better downside to it.
Yeah, a better downside to it might be good to balance that out. That's a thing to discuss with some people and figure out if there's a better downside or if it'd be better just to nerf it. I don't know. It's a thing that has to be addressed, though, because certainly a 6 insight bonus has definitely been unbalancing things a lot more than I realized it would. I was originally hoping just to replace armor, but he does have a +3 braces of armor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I think that's why I put it as a 6, because I'm like, what's the kind of the same armor bonus that Cell is wearing? Sure. That'll replace it 1-to-1. The answer to that question was no, it wouldn't. Also, there's probably some spells that I don't know if they react the way that they do, but I didn't look up the spells of Cell. That's another thing to break down. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. Except for me regretting decisions that I've made in the past. That happens. Turns out, designing, like, items is very difficult.
It can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Balance is difficult. Anyway. So, next week, no Buccaneers. I'll be talking tabletop Tuesday and Thursday. I might be adding a third day of talking about tabletop because I've enjoyed that a lot and it's pretty easy. And if I do, I'm thinking that would be Saturday mornings, basically. So I'd have a big afternoon in between shows and stuff. But, that would be the plan. I might start with that next week. I'm just saying that now. We'll see if I do the 3-week tabletop schedule. Maybe I'll test it out. Because Saturdays wouldn't be a guarantee, because sometimes some things come up on that day, but it would be most weeks then. It's probably the best time I can add onto the schedule. If I want to do a third time. I'll be playing, I think the game Kunai I rolled on from my Steam library. We'll be testing that out on Monday. And if you missed, I did some Fallout 4. I'll probably do some at some point in time. And stuff like that. That was fun. Fallout 4 was good. That's going to be my kind of big long-term game as I do them here and there. And then, I think that's it for the schedule for streaming stuff coming up. Check stuff up on YouTube. We're caught up on discussing tabletops. If you hear that, we were caught up, at least when I said this. But I should be putting this out on Monday if I'm smart and good and remember to do things correctly. So, this should be coming out on Monday. And hi, Monday! For the YouTube people. Hi! Otherwise, Twitch, that's the schedule. I can't think of anything else. Thank you again for joining, Momo.
Yeah.
I guess you'll be back in a couple weeks on Buccaneers for that adventure. As we figure out what's next, because I'm scrapping at least 50% of the next adventure, probably more. And then I think that's it. So farewell, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.